What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we did the whole Nintendo Direct thing yesterday. Great presentation, a lot of really cool stuff in there, but it's still E3 week, and there's still a lot of stuff that's going on right now. So still plenty of news to talk about today, including a change coming to Mario Maker 2 that, well, a lot of people asked for. So it actually kind of turns out that if you just let the company know what you want, they might actually give it to you. Huh. It's an interesting thought there. Also, great news. Looks like we got the streaming ability back for the channel, so Spawncast and everything will still go along like normal. So, you know, thanks to Ubisoft for getting it back to us just in time to stream the Nintendo Direct. But, hey, thumbs up, right, guys? Hit the thumbs up button for that ability coming back so we can still stream the Spawncast this weekend. Today, we're going to actually start with Ni no Kuni. It's on the Nintendo Switch, of course, also on the PlayStation 4, and it's also coming to PC, but there are some differences here, and there's something I wanted to point out in those differences, and it actually comes down to the pricing and what they're doing with them. So, for example, the PlayStation 4 and the PC version are called remasters because they do change things like resolution, frame rate. It kind of brings it up to more standardized. But the Switch version appears to just be like a straight up port of the PlayStation 3 version. Like it's 720p, 30 frames per second. It's basically the exact same game as on the PS3 being moved over, and it still appears to be $50 on their website. Now, Ni no Kuni is a great game. I liked it a lot, but I do want to at least put that out there so you understand, because it seems like there is like they have remaster next to the regular one. It's not technically a remaster, it's just a port. So you'll have to decide kind of which way you want to go with it, if you want the more remastered one or you do want that portability. Just know that with the Switch, you are paying technically a premium for a port, so if you're unsure about that price, I have a strong feeling it will go on sale at some point. Also, a little bit of an update. We talked about Shenmue 3 yesterday, about how they did the switcheroo from what appeared to be Steam in surveys and even questioning what platform you wanted it on, to Epic Game Store exclusively, at least for the time being when it first launches. Well, originally backers were not happy, of course, and they were requesting refunds, and it kind of stopped there that I had seen, but we had updates now where they actually sent out messages saying, we're not going to do refunds just because we're using the Epic Game Store as an exclusive, even though we kind of made it seem we were going to Steam, and we even asked you if you wanted, you know, Steam keys for your platform. Now, the Epic Game Store didn't technically exist when they were first doing this, right, with Shenmue 3, but still, not offering a refund for what feels like a bait and switch is, yeah, that's not a great look. Again, the developers behind Shenmue 3, what I would do is I would look at that and say, okay, well, we're going to get them Steam codes. We had a pre-order page even on Steam, or not a pre-order page, but it was advertised on it and everything, and it all seemed like it was going to be on Steam. So I would look at that and say, yeah, maybe we should at least get them Steam codes. We've seen it before with Metro Exodus, where anyone who had ordered it through the Steam store got it. The only difference here is they, of course, never offered ordering through the Steam store. Very messy situation over there, definitely. Oh, and we, of course, saw this Spyro collection, the Reignited trilogy coming to the Switch that was announced during yesterday's Nintendo Direct. Well, surprise, surprise, it looks like there will be a download required. It's not actually a surprise, obviously, because there was a lot of stuff going down with this, just with the PS4 version and the Xbox One version. Do you remember that, where they didn't have everything on the disc, and that was a Blu-ray? So I'm not shocked. I don't think anybody is to hear that you're gonna have to download stuff. And the way we found this out is by looking at the box art that you're seeing here. Directly at the bottom, we have that nice little stamp, of course, that says download required, see back. So yeah, make sure, I guess, you have at least enough space on your internal storage or an SD card on the side, but this does, I think, hurt the longevity of these games when it comes to preservation, especially after the server gets turned off. How do you get the rest of the game? Also, while we're on the topic of physical games and preservation, the Collection of Mana did release yesterday, and it's like $40 on the eShop, and it turns out it is gonna get a physical copy, just not now. It's actually not till the end of August. Square Enix even put up the nice box art, which, good job. The box art, I think, looks good. It's a good-looking piece of artwork and everything there. And it's not coming out until August 27th for Collection of Mana. Still the same price, though, at $40. They do have it up on the Square Enix store, so you can go pre-order it. Just understand you're gonna be waiting a little while to get it, whereas you could technically be playing all of the Secret of Mana games now, which is what I'm doing. I'm actually playing Seiken Densetsu 3 currently, and having a good time with it. It's really cool to see it on the Switch in North America. I might do a video on it just so you guys can check it out, because I get it, it is a little pricey, and we can kind of do a little bit of a gameplay session with it. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're actually going to start with Mario Maker 2. So, of course, before we found out that apparently with Mario Maker 2, you wouldn't be able to play online with friends, which was very odd because they had random matchmaking, which meant that you by yourself could go into matchmaking, it would pair you up with a bunch of people, and then you guys could play together, but you couldn't go and play with your friends in like a custom game mode or something. You had to all be in the same room, on the same couch or whatnot, and that was a weird thing because we just found out that there was Mario Online. That was a pretty cool thing, and then they kind of chop it down with that little bit of information. Well, if you remember, fans came out and they weren't happy and they let Nintendo know it, and there was some pushback actually from other fans about entitlement and everything, but I think it was pretty clear. It was very, I think, constructive criticism. It was saying, we like this game, we want it to be as best as it can be, please make it so we can play with our friends online. Well, they heard us, and it is going to allow you to play online with your friends. It appears to be coming in an update. Here's actually a clip from the Treehouse yesterday that was posted back up on Twitch. It gives us a very quick clip of them actually saying that.
So, yeah, we are continuing our work, and I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this today, but we are planning some, we're going to be making some changes to the matching with friends that you can play.
And they followed up also on Twitter, Nintendo did, as you're seeing here, that says, Mr. Tezuka has confirmed that the ability to play online multiplayer with friends is coming to Super Mario Maker 2 in a future update. Stay tuned for more information to come. That's right, they even mentioned that they seem to change their mind a bit there, and it's coming in an update, so it's obviously not ready necessarily, I guess, for launch. And yeah, I think this was a good thing to see where fans were able to make a change, make the game better. I mean, it's a feature that should have been there, I think, from the start. I think that's why a lot of us were confused, because it seemed obvious. I mean, it's Mario Maker 2. Wouldn't you want to play with your friends with Super Mario Maker 2 if you guys make a level and you're like, oh, let's run through these levels together? That seems obvious. And I didn't get it. Their excuse before were leaderboards. Well, I guess that didn't hold up for more than a few weeks, because yes, you will be getting that update. I assume it'll push out after release, maybe a week or two or something, and then you'll be able to play with your friends. But good news, just keep in mind, if something happens like this again and you're not sure, you're allowed to tell Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft, or I guess Steam, or whoever else, we want this. We want this. You're giving us this. How about we make it better, because this is what we actually want. You're the paying customer, after all. Next up, let's talk about Project Scarlet. That is Microsoft's next the system, umbrella for system. Basically, it's Project Scarlet is going to most likely be multiple systems. We hear Anaconda and Lockhart being the two code names, one weaker and cheaper, one more powerful and probably very expensive. And one question that has really been going around at this time, especially seeing the Xbox One S all digital or the Xbox One SAD, is are we on the way out for Blu-rays and physical media? That is a serious question, and people are concerned if next generation, they'll just make the jump, they'll cut it off completely. Good news, okay? Not next generation. Maybe the next one. I'm not gonna say that, because that's, I mean, the next generation after the following, the following generation after that could be 10 years down the line for all we know from now. So 10 years from now, yeah, maybe physical media won't be around much anymore, but good news, it will at least be around going into 2020, right at the end, holiday, when these things launch. This is actually in an interview with Matt Booty, and I didn't make that up. Yep, Matt Booty talking with Eurogamer, saying, yes, Scarlet will have an optical disc drive. I still have films at home on physical media, not many, but a few of my favorites. We know people have an attachment to buying games on disc, to building a collection. Now, I will admit, an actual disc drive in a system only works to add cost to the system, and not in a way outside. Like, if you put a disc drive in there, they have to figure out how to make that work and still put a bunch of money into the CPU, the GPU, the RAM, the storage. Whereas if you remove that disk drive, you would assume they can save money on that and then put money into other parts. So I actually think whenever we get to that point where it's all digital, which, I mean, let's be real, when you get a disk, you pop it in, it installs, and then it downloads like 20 gigabytes of patches anyway at this point, right? So how useful are these disks? I'm not sure anymore, but whenever we get to that point, I do think you'll see a bit more put into the other side of the system because they'll probably save, you know, 20, 30 bucks in manufacturing and able to put that elsewhere. But at least for next generation, Project Scarlet, we don't know about PS5, but I'm going to assume we will have a disk drive. They will have one. And that also bodes well for backwards compatibility that they have talked about, which makes me believe Xbox One, like original Xbox, the Xbox original will work in the 360 and the Xbox One, so that'll be really cool to see. Next up, what I'm about to show you is not a joke, and this actually happened and people thought there was some trolling going on, someone was photoshopping and putting images around. This is a real thing. It's the TurboGrafx Mini. No, I'm dead serious. There are pictures. There is a full trailer for it. You're seeing some of all of that here. This is actually announced by Konami on a stream last night, and they actually talk about their own classic plug-and-play system using the TurboGrafx branding. Now, they've announced a few games: R-Type, Ysbooked 1 and 2, New Adventure Island, Ninja Spirit, Alien Crush, Dungeon Explorer. Haven't seen anything about Bonk yet, which, if you're gonna have a TurboGrafx, you should have Bonk's Adventure on there. I mean, that just, to me, that makes sense. But this is actually kind of neat for people who are fans of this system. Now, we're missing pricing, we're missing release date, and there are still more games to be announced. One of them, I assume, will be Bonk. Like I said, that only makes sense. But this is pretty cool. In fact, if I remember, I thought Ys was a CD, so maybe they can pull from that as well, because it's just an emulator, right? Like they're using an emulator. It's just based on like a standard board with a mobile chipset and everything, like we've seen with the Super Nintendo Classic, the Nintendo Classic, the PlayStation Classic, and of course soon to be the Genesis Classic or the Mega Drive Classic. So interesting stuff here. I'm gonna be curious how many people really get on board with this, but it looks pretty true to the original form and everything, and the emulation is going to be the most interesting part with Konami, but maybe they grabbed M2, who knows? There's still a lot of information coming out around this. This is an initial reaction that a lot of people had, which is what? And there it is, the TurboGrafx Mini. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about The Witcher 3 on the Switch, because something interesting has now happened here, or at least popped up, and it's something that a lot of us are going to be following because it could mark the actual use of 32 gigabyte cartridges going forward, something we've been wondering for a while. Consider Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, of course, in Japan, where they did use 32 gigabyte cartridges. There were other, I believe, regionalized things where larger cartridge sizes were used, but to release like worldwide and everything, no, not really. And a lot of these developers and publishers will, of course, decide to push the download off to you, and then they'll just release a cartridge that's like, you know, a 4 gigabyte or an 8 gigabyte cartridge. Then you got to download like 15 gigabytes, 20 gigabytes. We've seen it, LA Noire off the top of my head, right? NBA 2K, there's plenty of them out there with Wolfenstein. So to see this is very interesting. Now, how do we find out about this? Well, first thing, if you look at the actual box art that's been shown, it seems to indicate that there is no download necessary. We just talked about Spyro that needed one. They always have them seemingly on the front. And then to go a bit further, CD Projekt Red and their Witcher account, so for Witcher 3, actually responded to someone and said that the file size is 32 gigabytes. So we have a box art that doesn't say anything about a download size, and then we also hear them saying it's 32 gigabytes, which does make us all believe that this is a straight up 32 gigabyte cartridge that's going to be sold for $60 that won't require a download. That is pretty exciting. Now, here's the thing. CD Projekt Red, of course, has lower costs than a lot of studios, but they are working alongside Saber Interactive for this, so they still have to pay the porting studio. It's not like it's all in-house and everything, but they do generally have at least lower costs. Maybe that is contributing to what we're seeing here, or maybe 32 gigabyte cartridges are becoming cheaper now that the Switch has been out for so long. Maybe Nintendo's working to front some of the cost. A lot of questions here right now, but as 32GB cartridges become more plentiful and cheaper, then you'll start to see these bigger than, these bigger games that you would expect to be on the Switch. Games that don't seem like they fit on a portable device yet because they're still on current generation systems, right? I mean, we're taking a PS4 game and we're moving it over, this big open world style game with The Witcher 3. And to a lot of people, yeah, that's kind of freaking people out right now, but it's really cool to see. And the cartridge size has always been one of the biggest bottlenecks for developers and publishers. So what happens if that bottleneck's removed? Well, we might see over the next year or two. And we'll finish up here with the comment of the day from yesterday. As you're seeing here, this one's from Bobo that says, did you know Just Dance 2020 will be a mess on Stadia? So I'm actually trying to figure out now, after reading that comment, how Stadia is actually gonna work with Just Dance. The latency thing isn't actually that big of a deal because in other rhythm-based games, I know you could change the latency itself in the settings to actually match what your TV latency was. And I assume that would work just the same with Stadia. So you actually might get a decent experience, as weird as that sounds, out of Just Dance because I believe they have that as well. But I don't know how it's gonna work with the device. So when you do Just Dance, you either can use your phone, I believe, with an app. You can use like a Kinect, PlayStation camera, I believe, with the Move. But how does that work with Stadia? Because I don't think you use the controller like that. I believe you use the Joy-Con with the Switch, but I don't know if you use the Stadia controller when you move around and everything. I don't think there's a camera that you use. I think you have to use that mobile app. And will there be syncing problems with that? So that's another one to keep an eye on. I don't know how well Just Dance would work with that. And to be honest, Just Dance is on the Wii. Like, you probably have something that can play it otherwise locally. So again, I'm not really sure why that you would play that on Stadia, but someone will. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's the change in Super Mario Maker 2. Are you excited that Mario Maker will have online, that's right, online play with friends? It's still weird to see that because Mario as a platformer generally doesn't go online. So interesting stuff there. We'll see how all that works out and how long until that update comes out. And then what do you think about Witcher 3 seemingly being on a 32GB cartridge? Do you think we'll see more of these bigger style games because the cartridge sizes are becoming cheaper? It's interesting to think about. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.